All right, this is a follow-up to the Book of Enoch, two messages that I did previously. I didn't get to touch on some of the more salient points of this. In Enoch 93.8, chapter 93.8. Now, by the way, Enoch, this Book of Enoch is quoted in the Book of Jude. In the Book of Jude, in your Bible, in chapter 1, verse 14, it says that Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied. And it tells a little bit about that prophecy. He's going to return with his 10,000 angels at the end of time. Yahuah is. And so obviously Jude thought that Enoch was a prophet that was true and accurate, that he was a prophet of God. And Enoch, of course, is pre-flood. It's before the flood. So Noah would have had this book on the ark. And obviously the apostles in that read the Book of Enoch, because here they are quoting it. So it's very interesting. Well, going on in 93.8, it says, all those, this is referring to this sixth week, which I'm not quite sure what those weeks are referencing, obviously not literal weeks. But it says, all those who live in it, speaking of this nation, will be blinded, and the hearts of them all lacking wisdom will sink into impiety. That's irreverence toward the Almighty. And in it a man will ascend, and at its end the house of sovereignty will be burnt with fire, and in it the whole race of the chosen root will be scattered. Well, it's interesting, this house of sovereignty I was doing a little more digging on. I touched on it last time, but I wanted to cover it a little more because this really tells you who Enoch is writing to. Now, previously we covered that he's writing to the end time, the latter-day people, a generation that turns away from Yahuah's law. They don't follow his law anymore. And this house of sovereignty, now a house is speaking of a nation, like the house of Judah is talking about that nation Judah. The house of Saud over there is Saudi Arabia. Well, this house of sovereignty, who does that describe? Now there's no other nation on earth that this could be describing except the USA. Now, if you don't know, if you're ignorant to this fact, America is the only nation where the people are sovereigns without subjects. All the people in the nation are sovereigns. They're kings. All the people are kings. And like in Britain over there, and Canada and Australia and other places, they have a queen or a king over them, and they're subjects. They're subjects. And in other nations, China and whatnot, those people are not sovereigns. They've never been granted any sovereignty at all. Well, if you read this quote on the screen I have here, at the Revolution, speaking of the Revolution of the United States back in the 1700s, at the Revolution, the sovereignty devolved on the people, and they are truly the sovereigns of the country, but they are sovereigns without subjects. With none to govern but themselves, the citizens of America are equal as fellow citizens and as joint tenants in the sovereignty. Now, this comes from a Supreme Court case, Chisholm versus Georgia. It's cited there, U.S. 2 Dow 419. And the people of this state, as the successors of its former sovereigns, are entitled to all the rights which formerly belonged to the king and by his prerogative. So in America, all the people have all the rights of a king or queen, like Queen Elizabeth over there. They have all the rights of Queen Elizabeth, but they don't have any subjects. So this is pretty interesting. Most people don't know these rights and don't know how to get a hold of them or anything. But for this Enoch study we have here, it's very clear that this house of sovereignty will be burnt with fire. So I think it's talking about the United States. It cannot accurately describe anyone else. And he describes nuclear bomb war coming up here, which I covered last time. We'll cover it in a little more detail here. The only one else that's been nuclear bombed like that and fire like that destroyed cities and stuff is Japan with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those people certainly were not sovereigns. They had a king over them, and they were not sovereign. So the only people in the world this could apply to is America. So if you've done any study on the sovereignty, this should really fix in your mind. You should really fix this fact in your mind that Enoch, this book of Enoch, the seventh from Adam, who prophesied first, and he's prophesying about the end times, he is writing to the United States of America, and he's telling you it's going to be this house of sovereignty, this nation of sovereignty, will be burnt with fire. So this should stick in your mind. And this dovetails perfectly in with Jeremiah 51:24, which says, I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith Yahuah. Behold, this is from 51:25, behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, O destroying nation, he's talking about. That's us, we're a destroying nation. Saith Yahuah, which destroy all the earth, and I will stretch out my hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rocks, and will make thee a burnt mountain. So there it is. Jeremiah saying you're going to be a burnt nation as well. You're going to get burned up. And Revelation 17:16 describes similar things when it says, and the 10 horns which you saw upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. That's the whore of Babylon over there, New York and the rest of America. He says, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. So this beast nation this beast government that rises on the scene at the end, and all nations give their power to it, I suspect it's going to be led up by Prince Charles over there. But it is going to be burnt. It's going to burn the USA with fire, just like Enoch's writing about. Well, Revelation is telling you the same thing. Eat her flesh, that's describing what's coming for most American people over there, death. And Revelation 18:18 says this, they cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? That's talking about New York. There's no city like New York in the whole world. And in 19 it goes on, they cast dust on their heads, they cried, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour she is made desolate. Now the only thing that makes New York City desolate by burning and fire in 1 hour is nuclear bomb war. And that's what it describes in Jeremiah, where it talks about the enemies fire their shiny bright arrows at us. Well, going on with Enoch, Enoch says in 101.8, did he not make heaven and earth, speaking of Yahuah, the Almighty, and everything that is in them, who gave knowledge and wisdom to all things that moved on the ground and in the sea? And do not these captains of the ships fear the sea? Yet sinners do not fear the Most High. Now that's the United States over there. By and large, people do not fear Yahuah, the Most High, anymore. They think that sin's been, that you can go on sinning and you're still going to be raptured out of here, or you're going to, there's a lot of different strange doctrines about how it's going to go real well for sinners. But he doesn't say that here, because he goes on in 102:1 saying, and in those days, if he brings a fierce fire upon you, where will you flee, and where will you be safe? And when he utters his voice against you, will you not be terrified and afraid? He's talking about the fire of nuclear bomb war, which he's going to bring on America. That's what he's talking about, for the people that don't fear the Most High. 102.2, and all the lights will shake with great fear, and the whole earth will be terrified and tremble and quail when they see America nuked with 300 nuclear missiles coming in, just like that movie The Day After. 300 nukes. And I suspect that's probably, if not more, what Russia and the others will unleash on us in 1 hour. It will be so horrific you won't be able to believe it. And that's what he's describing. This is what Enoch saw. And he goes on. Now, he says here, and all the angels will carry out their commands. Of course, the angels do the mop-up job 3.5 years later of the rest of the earth. But America gets taken out first. He goes on, and will seek to hide from the one who is great in glory, and the children of the earth will tremble and shake. You sinners will be cursed forever and will not have peace. So your preacher is telling you can go on sinning, and everyone says, oh, I'm just a sinner, and I can't do anything about it. Yes, you have to do something about it. You have to quit. You got to read those 10 commandments and start keeping them, like the Sabbath, or thou shalt not steal. You don't have to steal. When you go down to the store, you don't have to steal. When you walk through town, you don't have to, murder anybody. You can quit that if you're doing that. And if you're committing adultery, you can quit. Go get your own wife or wives. And you've been sold a bill of goods, is what it is, from preachers and priests and these men of the cloth that are paid. Have been selling you a bill of goods. This law, somehow you can't keep it, or that it's bad, or that it's wicked. Well, he lets you know what's going to happen. The Book of Enoch, along with the rest of it, let you know what's going to happen to those that buy into that lie. Going on in Jeremiah 51:29, the land shall tremble in sorrow, for every purpose of Yahuah shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon desolation without inhabitant. Now you hear that? This fits perfectly with Jeremiah 51:29. 30 goes on, says, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds. Their might has failed. They have become as women. They have burned their dwelling places. Her bars are broken. You seeing a reoccurring theme here? America gets burnt. The latter-day Babylon, I've done a whole series on that. America is the latter-day Babylon. New York City, it's describing there in Revelation. Well, Enoch is describing the same thing, and he calls it the House of Sovereignty. That only fits America, the House of Sovereignty. So you should really dwell on this. We're going to do one more session on this, because the next one, and I hope it's fixed in your mind who he's talking to. He's talking to this end-time people, a generation to come at the end time. Distant generation, he said. You can listen to the first 2 messages that I did. Well, we'll pick it up there. In the next one, we'll cover the last little piece here of Enoch. And, it's fascinating. His writing, being the 7th from Adam, 6,000 years ago, he saw what's coming to America. Hallelujah.